I don't even know how to tackle it. I guess I will just go west and start at Aramax. We have the luxury of observer cam at the moment, however, and high graphics. How about that, Tramel? However, we don't exactly, I totally went the wrong direction, but anyway, don't exactly have the day and night cycle in our favor at the moment. But that being said, in true PlanetSide fashion, I feel like I can interrupt this regularly scheduled broadcast to... that's a bit high. Slightly turn this up just so that you can see a little bit better. Forgive me. Anyway, we're at Barrik Electrical. This is just a small outpost, single cap point. But you'll notice a lot of differences, some new buildings that you haven't seen before. We'll see how terrible I still am at being an observer. A lot of underground stuff going on, which is pretty cool. A lot of new areas, things that aren't necessarily being reused. Like, for instance, we haven't seen this building, or at least looking like this, for the cap points and other important areas within the base. So that's pretty neat, and you'll see this in a lot of bases. Some more like indoor or in cavern combat within the facilities and stuff like that, and I think it's pretty cool. I love infantry combat. I always complained about being in a base that you thought was, or a part of a base even that you thought was relatively infantry centric. You shouldn't be able to be killed by vehicles where you're at, and then some guy finds a way to nail you with that vehicle shell from really far away, and it was just a kind of frustrating gameplay. And when you're down there at that A point, you're not getting killed by a vehicle that hasn't managed to weasel its way inside there somehow, so that's cool. I like it that even a small outpost, especially ones even near the warp gate that don't get touched that frequently, got the type of treatment that this one did, and I think it's looking pretty awesome. Can we warp speed over there without making ourselves sick? Let's see. Not quite warp speed, but that might not be so bad. Alright, so we are at Aramax. Actually, zoom out slightly. I use my scroll wheel for too many things, and it's a little bothersome. Looking down with the observer cam's not so great, but there's a spawn, again, 1 point single outpost. We've got some, typical, buildings and base structure going on here. Nothing as groundbreaking as some of the other ones, but still cool base design. I just don't think that I can spend 5 minutes on every single base. I don't know if I should run up to Tumas. You're not going to see quite as much of a difference in existing facility types that you're used to. For instance, this is the Tumas that you've known for quite some time. And here's what we were talking about with the satellites being actual, like Tumas cargo facility has a name, it's a separate base and hex and so on and so forth. Same with the Skylance battery. So for instance, this is the one of Tumas's satellites. Much larger than your typical satellite. You've actually got an A point in there that's in a rather large, pretty cool open indoor area. I really like these really large open indoor areas. They remind me of even to some extent PlanetSide 1 bases, because we haven't been seeing a lot of open indoor areas. I know we didn't have really bases this large in PlanetSide 1 for indoors, but if you think back to PlanetSide 2 a year ago, you hardly had indoor areas that were a fraction of this size, so that's pretty cool for a main capture point. Not only that, you've got spawn point, teleporter room, and terminals for vehicles over there, and then you've got this whole approach, which is actually just a really cool, haven't been seen before in PlanetSide type of structure as well. The grav pads down into there and so on and so forth for access from the floor. And that's just the satellite for Tumas. So they actually did some really cool stuff with them. Here's the other Tumas satellite, Skylance battery. We are looking at, and forgive me because I've practiced some on some of these bases on test, but I can't say, I'd be lying if I said I've been to all of them and explored them thoroughly. There's just that many changes, most of which that I've seen I've been really happy with. I just haven't had necessarily the time to go through them, so we're learning together at the moment. My apologies for the camera shake. But this is another really cool design. I actually like, how much is enclosed yet still open in this particular design. It's not like a box that's completely closed off to infantry there. You've got some combined arm aspects. Combined arms. Wouldn't be combined arm when if there's only one arm, eh? But yeah, this is Tumas's other satellite. And I'm going to try to keep myself going generally in a westerly motion now. I guess we'll hit up Chimney Rock, and then maybe the Torremar Wokuk area. Just the bridge approaching Chimney Rock. The approach should look pretty familiar to you, but the base has gotten beefed up quite a bit. You've got the teleporter room actually in a nice spot. It is arguably close to the spawn, by the looks of it, relative to the cap point, which is still generally in the same area. But you've got a lot more cover in here, just in the way of actual level design, not say buildings, but rocks and terrain and things like that. You've got the V-term. I like this how the vertical axis plays in here a bit. Not only do you have your typical two-story, but you've got yet another level down here and stuff. You can just imagine some pretty interesting fights down in there if they're not being bombarded from the skies. But yeah, it's Chimney Rock for us. I can't wait to actually get to play on most of these bases on live, since I've just really scrimmed in small numbers on tests and stuff so far. So if you've been playing on any, be it on test or since it's gone live, definitely leave me your feedback as well. So here's West Pass. Fundamentally very similar setup as far as the ABC point, the tower, and the hill north of it. I don't think much changes on this end. There's probably subtleties that, Clegg and Klaus and Malorn are going to hear me say, oh, nothing changed here, and they're like, are you kidding me? I changed so much shit over there. So I apologize for that. But we do see some changes here with this bridge and C point being pushed out a bit further, as well as some underground action going on, which is always cool. I like the underground, if you haven't noticed. Anything that keeps me safe from those blasted vehicles. So that's pretty exciting stuff. There's a C point. It's now actually considerably further. It's getting the crown treatment as far as the C point goes, but I like the approach, especially the underground element for that bridge. Here is our friend the Wokuk shipping dock, one of Wokuk's satellites. Again, you've got a kind of the fortified defensive, whatever you want to call these structures, with the vehicle shield gate on both sides. You've got the point below this bridge area. I don't even know if the entrance is the same as, yeah, it looks like the entrance is the same as what we saw over at West Pass, just up north of us right here, which is kind of interesting to reuse that in two bases right next to each other, essentially. I don't know if this part of it was I don't remember already. I don't know if there was this extra add-on essentially over here. I think this building is part of something that goes then above ground, your typical two-story building. Apologies for making anybody sick. Can't really just mosey along at foot soldier speed. We would never get through this video. But pretty cool stuff. I like it. I really am liking some of the larger outposts and the satellites so far. You can tell Wokuk has 3 satellites as opposed to the other 2. Go down to one of the other ones and Torremar and then come back up. Typical tower with some fortification along the side. I guess you kind of got like some Sero listening post treatment there going on. Jumping down into A point, keep in mind that it's as huge as this is, and as much as this could be a 3-point cap, it is a Wokuk satellite, and it only has the one A point in there. So keep that in mind relative to the spawns and just all of the buildings down in here. I believe this is one of the ones that Clegg was working on, if I recall correctly, on stream. Or at least it looks damn similar to one, if it wasn't. Just to take you through the point, it's your typical 2-story. With some added cover in here. You've got like this half wall and stuff like that, and a little bit more cover than you usually see with the lockers or whatever those would be called. So you got to take the ground perspective on a lot of this. I know I'm flying by, but if you're a foot soldier or ground vehicle or something like that, pretty cool stuff. Bounce back to Torremar real quick, and we'll go back up. This is going to be a damn long video, but hopefully the people who want to watch it are still here, and the people who don't have since closed the window. So here we are at Torremar. This has received, I think, quite the facelift, if I recall correctly. You've got that vertical gameplay going on again. If you can kind of imagine from the spawn point where things are at and how we've got a few different levels here, with the A point being all the way back out there. I can only imagine it would be exceedingly difficult to push out of the spawns to get back to A, despite the fact that there is a teleport room over here, which is probably better placed than some have been that happen to be right next to the spawn room, a la Octagon, when the base is so large and could kind of benefit from a pushing from a different side. But here we are. This actually makes for some really interesting combat. Kind of reminds me of a Hassan-esque base, but it's not particularly fought over that often, just given its location. But we'll head on over to Wokuk Ecological and stop by the AM station as well on the way. Here's your typical AM station. I believe this is still the old layout, single A point in the middle. I believe Sungray's the only one that got the update in that sense, but not that there's anything wrong with that. And then Wokuk Ecological Reserve is over here. Preserve, excuse me, left off a P. Got some pretty interesting, cool ground vehicle entrance stuff going on over here, with I guess some offshoots that would allow you to hop out of your vehicle and then hop up into the base. It looks like one up on the south side and one on the north side. Elevated area here. I don't remember if this is one of the ones that I know Clegg was building a similar elevated area as well, but I don't think it was this base that I'm thinking of, at least, to shoot out oncoming tanks and whatnot. Just some buildings in here that you're familiar with. Many trees, you'll see that. A lot of bases got kind of, if I just, you know, back out here a bit, the Hassan approach in terms of tree cover as well. Like if you're familiar with some of the Hassan bases and the flybys that I did over there on test server, there's a lot of tree cover in certain areas, but that's not necessarily a bad thing at all. I love the amount of trees in PlanetSide 1 in certain areas, so I'm happy to see that. You know, you can't necessarily put high walls and a roof on everything, even though I'd probably enjoy it if you did. So getting creative with things like this is always pretty cool. We'll go up to Scarfield, I guess. I'm gonna have to like make some weird maneuvering. I don't know if I'll just try to stay in this like TR territory at the moment. Whatever. Thankfully, we can travel across the map pretty quickly. Probably even quicker than this, I think. Maybe not though, if we need to. Here's Scarfield, a you know, small outpost, single cap point. Really kind of large. Reminds me of one of the new Swarva outposts after the Indar update. But you can see how sunken down in there that is, and I really like that because this is your, you know, your regular. I don't know if I want to call it sea level here, but this is the regular level of the terrain. You've got, you know, a two-story, a rather large two-story. Love these like airplane hangar type of buildings with all these points of cover. Love the fact that there's a terminal again that's not in a spawn room. Hope to see those coming back with reliability. I believe that they said that they would, but that was the only part of the optimization update that I didn't like, seeing terminals get removed. So happy to see that. Got I guess some side entrances over here, and then down into this like big pit essentially where you fit another entire three-story building almost. That we saw this type of building with the plant in it on Nexus. So this is actually interesting. We've got some more specimens of sorts. Man, even the observer cam can't get through that. That must be some really important stuff. Vanu Tech. So anyway, there's the A point. The small and the large stair going up to here. Typical building for the most part that you're probably familiar with. Nice set of alternating stairs there to get back up top, or down for that matter. The roof actually has some gameplay to it with stairs and so forth. Jump pad over to the spawn room area. Pretty cool stuff. Like for a random edge of the map, single out, you know, point small outpost. Like that's some pretty you know, incredible detail. Shrouded Skyway is actually one of the more unique bases as well. So I'll hop over there and show you that. And we're back. Sorry about that brief disconnect, but here we are. Such is the nature of live TV. Anyway, we're moving along from the scarred reliquary where we just were to the Shrouded Skyway, which is actually really close. It's definitely very foot circle. And if the name didn't give it away, we are looking at a skyway of sorts, a snake, a bridge that, you know, does all sorts of goofy things that bridges do, or don't typically do, covered by a heck of a lot of trees, hence the shrouded part. So we're coming in here on the eastern side, and we've got our typical two-story that, slow myself down a little bit here, breaks into our first you know, bridge portion, if you will. And this is a typical bridge. It winds a bit, as you can tell. It has another terminal, which is awesome. A bit of cover in the form of boxes and crates on top of the typical places that you have for cover on a bridge like that. Forks off here into two, you know, I guess corridors that will then reconnect, as well as this this area that goes down into the actual A point, which is pretty cool. And you have, I guess, 3 stairways up to various parts of the bridge to reconnect you with that, as well as one that goes way down here towards the V-pad and things like that, spawn rooms, teleporter rooms, and so on and so forth. Here's your, you know, the other branch of the bridge, so to speak, which finally reconnects over here by these jump pads, and then heads on back up towards the spawns. So this actually, the spawns come directly out into this portion of the bridge. You've got a teleporter room that's actually positioned pretty well, a good distance from the spawn room, kind of just off in the bushes and trees down here, where you can get a alternate approach and then come up the other side with the grav pads, or just stay on the ground floor and then pop up one of these pathways directly to the A point. I actually think it's a really cool base. Kind of reminds me of the treehouse base that I don't remember the name of on Hassan. Just in a different way. So I really like it personally, and hopefully there's some good infantry fights to be had in there with all of the tree cover and so on and so forth. We'll bounce over to Cobalt Communications, pretty close, just over this mountain pass to the east. You're looking at you know, a typical base embedded in the side of a hill that you're going up here. My apologies for any background noise. I know this mic picks up everything, so we'll have to deal with it. Another point of live television. Anyway, spawn room, partway up the mountain. Another 1-point cap, small outpost base. Although I'm calling these things small outposts, and many of them don't really feel like they are. They just have 1 cap point. But if you look at, you know, with the satellite radar dish and how expansive these bases are, if you're familiar with Cobalt Communications, it gives the same feel that the base kind of always had. Again, just kind of beefed up and whatnot. So we've got that going on, pretty straightforward. I think there's not a lot to. I'm probably missing some like underground passageways and caverns, like at the Ascent and so forth. But forgive me if I am. I totally lost track of where I want to go. So I guess I should do Genudine Physics, because we haven't done that yet, and then I'll head back east a little bit. So Genudine Physics, another small outpost. You've got an interesting entrance, almost in the form of a garage that just kind of breaks off into these stairs that come up to a 2-story building. Basically, that has a connecting ramp. We did do some scrim testing on this base on the test server. And you've got these rocks with a little bit of a valley in between them on this southern side that are pretty interesting. We were attacking from the west, and I would keep flanking up here and then actually coming up these stairs and shooting people in the back over there, given that the point's kind of elevated in the middle over here. But it's just kind of this long connecting various 2-story building to you know, one of these 1-story buildings, a simple cap point building, another 2-story. You've got the spawn room on that far end, as well as the V-pad kind of positioned in such a way that you'll be driving off through this canal of, it's not a canal, whatever the hell it is, Valley of Rocks. Good thing they didn't call it Valley of Rocks Physics Lab. But anyway, that's Genudine. It was actually a pretty fun base to fight at, all told. So I don't even know how to tackle the rest of this. We'll probably do the Heyoka trip, and then maybe just cut up after that. Go through Heyoka Armory, I guess we could do first, and then the actual base proper, which hasn't really changed much as far as I'm aware. So here's Heyoka Armory. Got you know, another completely brand new satellite essentially, in terms of design. We've got the spawn room is... Oh, we're not so happy about that. Somewhat underground. Opening up into, you know, it's not really a spawn room that's going to be camped out the main doors, at least like they often are. This one of these new, like, really large two-story buildings, one of the hangar types, with actually some more interesting, like, look at all these points of cover and stuff. Pretty crazy stuff. I really like it. And that then opens up to the roof, essentially, which has another smaller building on top of it, a few smaller buildings on top of it, and this whole side of it's kind of just like blown off, which is pretty cool. Really liking the seeing much less of just the, you know, plop building K here and whatever building L here, and you know, like we've seen in previous base design. You've got really a lot more taken into consideration by the looks of it in terms of level design, as opposed to just, you know, plopping some bases and crates and so on and so forth together. I guess this is kind of the underground area that looks like coming directly out of the spawn room. I figured there was something like that. I just wasn't sure where the entrance was. That would be the teleporter room, get you a little bit closer. Look at this, like, they remind me a lot more of, you know, some modern FPS maps, and even, you know, to an extent, like Unreal Tournament maps and stuff like that. But from a infantry TDM perspective, I'm really digging it. So, and that's just a, you know, a tech plant satellite. It's pretty crazy to think of that. That's not like, you know, a main focus point base of sorts. We're gonna zip on over to the chemical lab on this side of it. Whoa, look at that bridge. That's crazy. Brings us to something that looks, oh look, it has the TR logo, but hey, how about that? Kind of like the energy bridges on Hassan. I guess this is the terminal for it. They actually did integrate some of those, where you essentially, you know, hold your A like you're hacking, or your E button, to have your Empire have control over it. And it looks like it would be kind of frustrating. I don't know if we... Oh yeah, look at that. It's actual, you know, Hassan smog acid nonsense. It's not just water that looks like it's water, but it's not really water. This actually has some depth to it, and it looks like it'll probably kill you. So I wouldn't test it if I was you. You have like a actual super serious moat around here with a infantry footbridge, and then that energy bridge for vehicles, another footbridge, yet another one, and another energy bridge. So that's actually pretty cool stuff. To actually, it's pretty wide open in here if you can get your ground vehicles in, but they'll have to actually control the energy bridges on both sides. So that's just like another example of a base that might look pretty standard for PlanetSide 2 base design these days, with like a whole nother element of this like toxic moat with the energy bridges around it and stuff like that, and some you know, off the side tree cover here with these cylinders, nanite systems, gasoline or whatever they're doing in there. I guess they wouldn't really. I have no idea. Anyway, yeah, just really cool. Some of this stuff I'm actually seeing for the first time as I preview it, as I said earlier. So really cool to see. Again, just a base satellite. I think I'm actually most impressed with the base satellites in general so far, because they've typically been just like some simple rollover facilities, small outposts that were nothing, and now you've got a whole lot more going on to capture some of these bases. So I actually hope we get some pretty cool fights at them. Let's head back up to Deepcore. Another mountainside. Pretty sure we didn't do Deepcore. No, we did Cobalt and so forth. Base with the entrance from the ground and a few different areas. There's the V pad. Goes up to, I guess, an offshoot that would be an entrance. Grav pads up there. Yet another one up top. Over here. So there's actually quite a lot of verticality in this base. A base like the old Split Peak was not really my cup of tea. It looked really cool, but functioned poorly in my opinion, given how spread out it was. I think a base design like this at Deepcore, the new Deepcore, looks like it makes a bit more sense if you're gonna try to run with something like that. So I'm actually pretty interested in what fighting, you know, assuming you're just a foot soldier over here, what fighting at this base might actually look like with all the vertical elements to take into consideration. So I'm probably not even halfway done with the map, so before my voice runs out entirely, I'm actually going to probably just run back down through that when I come down. So let's keep going north. We'll go to West Foothills, and we'll cover this area, and then we'll start up here, I suppose. I had to take a breath there for a second. Anyway, West Foothills, here we are. Built into a mountain is not a uncommon theme in Emmerich, but there's nothing wrong with that. You've got, you know, again, a lot of vertical, I don't even know what to call them anymore, design going into these bases. Different entry points for different levels of that axis. Like, not only that, but then on this side, and then there's, you know, stairs that go up, and it's actually, yet another one, a little bit mind-boggling and also intriguing to have to relearn the space design, both from a competitive standpoint, so that you know exactly what you're doing in competitive matches, and you're not you know, wasting time. Oh, I went this way and it was a dead end, you know, and things like that, as well as just playing on pub, you know, live servers and kind of knowing the lay of the land. I think that's a huge advantage and a really great piece of knowledge to have in any FPS for that matter. But especially when you see this many changes coming in. I remember when we were doing the interlink facility for Haas, and I was like, oh man, I really need to just learn this one base now. But you see changes like this, and it's sweeping changes and new buildings that we haven't seen before, and modifications of existing assets and things like that. That just requires a new learning process, but one that I think will be pretty fun. So here's West Foothills. We'll hit the Kwahtee, and then we'll come on up. I feel like oh, okay. The Kwahtee Mountain Complex is a really interesting base that I had a lot of fun in, even though I knew nowhere where I was going when I tested it. So we'll head over there shortly. Here's Kwahtee Fortress. Looks kind of like a fortress. We've got our spawn room over here, typical double-decker spawn room. We've got these vehicle shields literally all around, with the exception of, you know, tree and rock cover over there on those sides. Typical cap point. I believe this building stayed about the same, so did that building, and this, but it's just, again, a satellite that was existing that really got beefed up, and now you've got the shield gen in this kind of expanded upper platform. It's essentially on like the third story, or the 2.5. If this is a 2-story building, and it goes up from this. Pretty cool stuff, indeed. I guess that's the teleport room and the vehicle pad. We'll head over to Kwahtee Mountain Complex, one of my favorite bases. Not to say that it's gonna function the best or whatever, but just when I first played on it, I was like, holy shit, this is not a PlanetSide base, but I like it. So Kwahtee Mountain Complex, if you haven't already guessed, is inside this mountain of sorts. We've got an entrance up there, the vehicle entrance down there. I'm not even sure how many entrances total there are. A teleporter room and covered area over on that side. I played in this base in a scrim, another entrance down there, for probably like at least a half hour, and I still only began learning where I was going. So you go into a PlanetSide 1 tech plant style vehicle bay. That was the first thing I saw when I was scrimming here, and I really like that feel about it. Like, if you're familiar at all with PlanetSide 1 tech plant v-bay, it's about as close as you could get. If I saw this screenshot in 2005, I'd say, oh look, it's the new tech plant. So this is kind of what this brings me back to, and I really like it. I'm assuming that that was some inspiration for that. This is, I guess, another terminal and teleporter room. I'm not sure exactly where it comes out, honestly. And then this goes up into, not unlike the PlanetSide 1 tech plant, you've got, well, this is unlike, but I was going to say something else. Anyway, you've got jump pads that take you up to here, and then go out into, like, crazy corridors. But before we get too far, you've got this exit as well, or entrance, depending on how you look. And I began to learn that this is the only door that is exitable from this room, because I would come in here when I didn't know the space, and I'd be like, okay, where am I going? Oh, I guess I need to go left. And then by the end of the scrim, the one thing that I learned is when I come through this doorway, I always want to hug a left, because that's where the exit is. But literally, it's very complex. I still don't know the exact layout of it. So this takes you up to yet another floor, terminal there, lots of box cover. There are grav pads, this one going up and this one going down, which take you down into yet another corridor. This goes further down and out into one of the other exits or entrances from the vehicle bay. So that being said, if you continue on through here, this gives you the other exit that was outside the mountain earlier. And then if you get actually into the meat of the base a little bit and you take the grav pad up, there's some larger indoor fighting areas in here, such as these hallways and corridors. And then this is going to take you back down just so you kind of have an idea. I don't know if you're following me at all where we're at right now. And then we're back to here. Okay, so we've kind of seen everything, how everything connects so far. This is yet the other entrance on this side, just so you know. And then this goes into one of the larger rooms in here that we saw the terminal on when we came in earlier. This breaks into the actual point room, and so on and so forth, with again lots of indoor cover, making for some really, really awesome indoor fighting. I think, at least. I had a lot of fun with it. We did like a 24v24 or a 16v16 or something, and we were having a blast. So that being said, I actually don't even really know the rest of it. I guess this is yet another exit under the rocks on this side of the spawns. One of the things that I was not clear on is where this went, so I guess may as well just take the exit from here, because the attackers, or the defenders in this case, were coming in from a different angle when I was playing here, and that'll break you out again into the point room. So hopefully that mostly covers whatever, and I believe that the teleporter, I can't actually take the teleporter at the moment, but the teleporter in the spawn room would take you out to that other teleportation area that I showed you. And then this is back to the area that goes into the V-Bay. I may have missed something, I don't know, but I think it's a really cool base. Again, just for a satellite of Kwahtee, of all things. Like, this is like an amazingly unique base. And it's just Kwahtee satellite, no worries. You know, this base that used to just be the little pushover that you run over the hill. This is the one that I'm thinking of. West Pass. So now we have that as well to look forward to. I love it. Anyway, West Pass, typical base, reminiscent of the one that was already existing, with some minor changes, I suppose. And I don't think there's a whole lot to say about it. Certainly not in comparison to the mining one, or mountain one rather. But there it is nonetheless. Okay, moving on up to SolTech Gorge and charging station. SolTech Gorge is what it sounds like. I'm running out of adjectives for these bases, but you've got the spawn and the teleporter room kind of dug out way on here. You've got some winding walkways, if you will, that are not easily navigated by larger vehicles, to a cap point that's pretty far away, admittedly. Oh, I went through a window. Compared to the spawns. For a small outpost, I think it's going to be one that's relatively easy to hold, especially with these choke points of the bridges and paths down here and stuff. But pretty cool base, nonetheless. I don't think I found a base that I was just like, this is bad, this is not cool, this is stupid. But then again, I'm optimistic, I suppose, if anything. We're moving up to SolTech Charging Station. Lots of solar panels, or nanite panels, whatever they do, which makes sense to have at a charging station, no doubt, as well as these pipes that charge and power things, yes. A nanite, whatchamacallit, rearming station that fits in so well there. You've got your banana room with the connecting bridges. This is, you know, this is kind of what I was saying about plopping building X, Y, and Z wherever. I mean, this is a format that we're very familiar with at this point, where you have banana room, or whatever you want to call it, crescent room, you know, albeit with some additional add-ons lately, like extra walls and so on and so forth that you don't usually see, which I actually really like a lot. Connecting to this two-story with the large stair that looks down into there, and the small stair, and you know, the SCU or whatever that we see a lot, and that's totally fine. I think having familiar buildings is good, but we're really starting to see them expanded quite a bit, or expanded upon quite a bit with some really new, cool, exciting stuff being added that you aren't familiar with already. So here's where the actual cap point is, not in one of these buildings. So this is kind of just a staging area outside of the spawn and the vehicle bay, along with this path that I guess you can take the teleporter room, and then take this somewhat covered path. You have a spot to shoot out over there, over to the panels themselves, and then down in here. That's what I'm saying, like really, really elaborate for a small, right off the sanctuary, or warp gate if you will, base, small outpost, but really, really cool stuff. This is going to be very long. Okay. Deserted Mineshaft. Let's go. I said that, you know, it's going to take hours to do this if I actually went through each one, and I feel like I'm going somewhat quick when I actually, you know, in grand scheme of things, but it's still going to be a really long video. Hopefully that doesn't scare people away from actually watching the patch notes section, which is only like 7 minutes long. Maybe I should have made 2 separate videos after all. I suppose I can, but who knows. We are at Deserted Mineshaft. One of these, you know, kind of garage-like sunderer, park your sunderer here, should have a sign on it. Entrances from the north. Another, you know, one of these typical windy stair buildings. I have such terrible names for some of these things. Jump pads that go up to where the actual fighting will typically be. Another wonderful terminal that's not encased in a spawn room or teleporter room. The base itself in your typical 2-story that we were just looking at over at the other base, charging station, V-term and spawn and teleporter room. Straightforward, but cool design nonetheless. I guess we can do LithCorp while we're here. This was a very unique base beforehand. Still keeps a lot of the same feel to it, as you can tell. I'm assuming some minor tweaks, but from the outside, from over here, it looks very, very similar. You're seeing, instead, however, of the spawn room that used to be here, we're actually looking at a D point. It's now a 4-cap base, which is really interesting. So the spawn room used to be there, and we get, you know, shot at by people all up on the ridge. I guess we're gonna miss that. You still get your A point down there, and your jump pads, grav pads, your C point back there. Your B point is now up here, which wasn't the case, but that's probably for the better, to spread out the points rather than have 2 tucked back in here. And you've got your spawn room way in the back, with a teleporter room inside, which I can only assume goes to here, so C should be kind of the point that the defenders have a pretty easy time controlling. Your air pad is still way out here by B and A, and then there's your D. It's actually probably a nice adjustment of that base, and seeing a 4-point cap on something like a large outpost is a first for us, so that's pretty cool as well. I guess I'll do Stoneridge while I'm here. Again, I'm all over the place. Stoneridge, some really large walls protecting the exit. Some like Baron's starting zone, or Duratar, whatever the hell it's called. Anyway, that's just what I thought of apparently. Stoneridge is again not a base that's often fought up at, but got a bit of a facelift. It feels similar to some of the other bases we were looking at before. I don't know off all of the names relative to the designs off the top of my head. But this is probably your typical feel for an Amrish base. You've got, you know, the point up here, rather central, in a small building on top of winding, you know, tree-covered and rocky areas and so on and so forth. Literally running out of descriptive terms for these bases, but really kind of amazed by them all the same. Anyway, cool stuff. It's a shame that some of these bases, just based on their geographical position, don't really get fought at that much. in the grand scheme of things. I guess we can break off to North Grove and then come down that way. I might try to go through some of these later bases a little bit faster just because it really is insane how many changes there are and how much stuff really warrants going through with a deeper analysis. But we've got this interesting vehicle shield of sorts here, I'm assuming relative to who's owning the V-Bay, as others do function. Teleporter room off of that spawn room that you saw over there by the V-Bay. A lot of tree cover, even the logs down on the ground and stuff like that. Some basic buildings, but again, kind of mostly natural terrain. Got a little creek going through here, or a crick, depending on where you live. A two-story connected to another two-story of a different type by this passageway, if you will, elevated passageway. The A point in here, which is kind of an unusual place for it. It's usually there, or down here, or somewhere not other than here. But that's actually pretty interesting. See how it works. Can't imagine it would drastically change anything, but we haven't seen it there before. I guess it's worth actually going south now to LithCorp Fortress. So when the word fortress is here, you've got, again, completely surrounded vehicle shields, a teleporter room, and a jump pad that I assume takes us up somewhere. Lots of jump pads, more over there and there. Again, you're seeing a lot of the vertical theme here. If you're talking about like this is your ground level, and then this is slightly elevated, and then this is elevated a bit more and more, and then it goes up to yet another story with a two-story building on top, and the roof. It's like so many different levels or floors, if you will, that make for some interesting combat. I'm really kind of interested in checking out light assault in a lot of these bases. That seems to be a theme. The newer Esamir bases, the Hassan bases, the Nexus bases, and especially the Emmerich bases. I found myself saying that a lot. Oh, I'd like to see how light assault plays here, which isn't a bad thing considering they don't really have that much of a group incentive / support role at the moment. But really cool base here, actually. I like how that kind of is hollowed out for vehicles, but it does have this fortress-like defense on both sides. I don't even know where I'm going. Ikanam with its 1.5 million satellites. Did it get reduced to 3? Looks like it. I don't think that that's a bad thing. Ikanam Garrison. Okay. Pretty soon I'm gonna just stop talking and just show you the bases. We've got teleporter rooms. This would be the one that actually teleports you into the biolab. That would be spawn and other teleporter room off the spawn. There's your A point in a two-story, again connecting with yet again something new, this type of a bridge that we haven't seen before. I really like how many new assets and things like that we're seeing that just visually look different and function different than things we've seen before. Jump pads that would take you to the base as well. And yeah, this is where we kind of started with the G-pad and everything else. I didn't really like the 4-satellite approach. I guess we'll just go over to the Auger at the moment. Not sure the purpose of this building way down here, but why not, right? Looks like it would have had like a shield gen or something in it, being off that far. Here's our A point in a more common spot within our 2-story. This actually has a little bit of expansion out here. This you probably saw some screenshots of with the drill. Really just kind of a visually awesome base to look at from afar. As far as how it actually plays, this is some interesting gameplay for light assault as well, with all of these various places that you can go to and fro that seem pretty consistent throughout the entire base. So light assault playground over here as far as actually being on the oh, that doesn't look like somewhere I want to go. Might even kill an observer cam. Here's a spawn room, teleporter room, V-pad, but really cool design and gameplay, I think, flowing east to west for light assault or others. I mean, if you're down on the ground, you're down on the ground in the nitty gritty. But there's so many places that you could be perched that that adds a pretty interesting element as well. Look at the other Ikanam satellites. Like I said, I'm glad that they went from 4 to 3 on pub servers, pub play. It seemed like Ikanam would need like 200 people attacking, like 4 times the pop, in order to really take it successfully, because I don't know if people just didn't know where to go or what, but it was, you'd see it, it looked like a good defense or biofarm, if you will, and you'd get there and you'd be like, where is everybody? What's happening? They own all 4 satellites, but nobody's anywhere. Anyway, here's one of the other satellites. Trying not to get too repetitive at this point, but just giving you guys the general feel of what it looks like without completely killing my voice. And the third Ikanam satellite. You'll see some, if you're familiar with the bases, you'll see some remnants of the ones that are already there. You know, for instance, you jump down here, this probably looks familiar. You go over here, there's, you know, spawn back here. I believe it's actually a larger 2-story spawn at the moment, but this is what it looks like now with the additional spawn room teleporter and the V-pad. Some slight changes to that one in comparison to some of the other bases that have been changed hugely, but oh, it is what it is. Did we go to West Foothills? I don't remember if we cut off at Mineshaft or we went to Foothills. I think we went to Foothills. Yeah. And then Le Bastion. This is very similar looking from out here if you're familiar with the base. Still got the ABC thing going on, 3-point cap. You've got your C point down in there. Nothing unfamiliar about that. A in there, and your B down there. I guess. I mean, this was kind of already a really unique base. There's probably some changes that they made that are more minor, but and you've got this really long, you know, bastion wall of Amarish. That is should not be unfamiliar, and often doesn't get fought at as much as it should for it being there. But I was curious to see if they moved any cap points or anything like that to encourage that. But it doesn't seem like it. Looks like it's mostly similar. I may be missing something. Again, I apologize if so. I think we did this entire. Did Tumas, we did Barrik, so I'm going to just go down this lattice line, and we'll come back up. For simplicity, we're making something of this Amarish puzzle. Oh, I remember seeing this, I believe from Clegg. Okay, so LithCorp Central. Bridge coming to and from, ground level, jump pads or grav pads up. We've got this really rather interesting covered pathway up the mountain as it, you know, coming around the mountain type of whirls up the side of the mountain. Yet another passageway that continues. Grav pad going down there, and then this is kind of like the terrace, the area with the turrets and so on and so forth, in a typical banana room style, as if you would imagine a banana room on a mountainside that's this tall. There's your V-pad, which will come down way down there, your spawn room and your teleporter room. Some additional cover up here, which is actually really cool to get to and from the banana room, if you will. I actually really like the simplicity of this for a base baked into the side of a mountain. But as far as attacking it, we'll see how that goes, I guess, huh? Where are we at now? I feel like I should do the ascent while I'm here. Alright, I'll do the ascent while I'm here. So the ascent backs up to it. This takes more of the place of, I don't want to say the place of Raven Landing because it's still here, but whatever. It's a central mountainous base, LithCorp Central. Central is in the name, look at that. Okay, so here's the ascent, which was a cool base and a cool idea, but often was just ignored because of how much of a pain it was to get to, being kind of in the center and the mountaintop of Amarish. So you can kind of see some similarities in the base already. Don't worry, I'm not going to forget about the cavern. With your points being in different places, like you'll see A way over there and so on and so forth. You actually have this back part of it that I don't believe existed at all, with points up here as well. but I could be wrong. I don't know. This base actually got a lot of updates, and much of it isn't even necessarily visible to you from the outside because there is a cavern inside with a few different entrances. One over there, one on the other side, but we'll just hop in one of these and hopefully not get ourselves stuck. These are not vehicle friendly. And brings you back to core combat. Whether you have positive or negative feelings of that from PlanetSide 1, I'm just showing you the other entrance. And then here we are in the actual cavern proper with the A point in one of these little teeny tiny buildings, like a shield gen type of building. But here's what the actual inside of the cavern looks like, all said and done, with various exits and entrances. And again, I think it's just absolutely awesome. No zip lines, unfortunately, but pretty cool stuff nonetheless, and should make for some interesting fights. I only hope that the Ascent gets more fights and more people attacking and defending it than it used to. Pop on down to Raven Landing. Here's our spawn room at Raven. I don't know if I'm going to miss out on anything here. We've got a typical large air pad for landing and rearming. Bridge going out into, I guess, another approach that could be through these mountains. Terminal, awesome, love it. It is a 1-point base, unlike the Ascent being 3-point. That point being in this 2-story. This actually makes for some interesting cover up here with these boxes, but can't complain about that because otherwise you're pretty wide open out here. It's getting a bit brighter on Amherst now. Alright, we'll just head directly. I used to think this base was kind of high up, given the fact that, you know, the ground level's over there, and now it looks like nothing in comparison. So pretty similar design. I believe they tacked on this B point way out here, if I recall correctly. But the main base, I guess you get a bit of changes because you have the spawn room over here as opposed to being over here, which is probably a better location for it being more centralized and the air term being accessible rather than having to walk through all of this stuff. But you kind of retain this building structure that was always here. Retain the bridge, with the exception of having this underground portion, or below top ground, which is actually really cool. That you can use for some cover if you're crossing it as infantry or so on and so forth. You've got some stuff even down here that doesn't necessarily have a point associated with it, but you know, another place sunderer here. Bay with jump pad that will take you up, or a graph pad that will take you up to the second floor of this. You can then go up to the top, or go through it like me, or just run across on the lower level if need be. So this actually makes for a lot more of an interesting attacker approach. And then you have this, again, really large, sides blown off, hangar type building where the main A point is, with, you know, this is kind of quintessential other FPS. You know, you've got your balcony around the edge. This reminds me so much of something, and I'm not sure what it is off the top of my head, to kind of look down over the point and take shots down. This is actually really, really cool point area, I think. And we did Barrik, but we didn't do High Road, so we're going to head on down to there. Here is High Roads. Another one of these awesome sunderer garages that opens up right into a building that would then lead you up onto this middle floor with the graph pads that would take you up to here. More graph pads. Terminal. Not sure exactly where this goes. Graph pads to a second level, as well as even higher yet. Holy cow. It just keeps going and going. Another second floor here with the A point in it. And then this is where we come out at, for what that's worth. So it's kind of like 2-story on top of 2-story. Lots of graph pads to support the teleporter room and the spawn room look like they're on complete opposite sides, which is really cool. I like that a lot. 1 point cap towards the top. Good stuff. I go down to the cryobank and we'll try to actually sweep the whole eastern portion of the map heading up north. So you have observer cam, it's kind of like, you know, gift and a curse with I can cover the ground so much faster, but instead of just like being in a reaver or something, I actually can go inside all of these things, so here I am, taking even more time. So here's what the outside approach looks like for ground vehicles. 1 point base with A in there. You've got some cover here, but here's your stairs to get up. I guess these are kind of like little buildings that you could potentially shoot at, rearm at, or change your classes out at if you're attacking with that terminal. This is actually really cool. Reminds me of implant stations from PlanetSide 1, even though they're just kind of like powered down spawn tubes. This will take you back up to the ground level up here. But while we're here, let's see what's going on down here. Corridor with some grav pads. Is this just going to be another entrance from the, from the southern approach? So for any infantry who want to hop out and take that approach, they can actually get themselves all the way up into the main fighting area, if you will, where the A point is adjacent to. So they'd pop out right here. Stairs to head on up. A point in another really large building with the overlooking balconies and railings and so on. I love the use of the tubes. Pretty cool stuff, especially for Araxian cryobank, right? Very fitting. Probably making people dizzier than Super Hexagon, because I'm kind of making myself a little bit dizzy. Granite Valley. Similar, you know, general whatever, obviously, but expanded out. You've got your B point in here and a typical 2-story covered bridge back to the main base. Some more interesting cover and buildings and trees and so on down there. You get your C point kind of mirrored on the other side in a 2-story with the covered bridge as well. Not completely mirrored, but something like that going on, as opposed to just having the teeny tiny building down here and so on and so forth. Sorry if the overviews are getting a little bit shorter. All right, Zealous. This is pretty interesting. Zealous South Bridge. Good name, now that I've seen it, yeah. A in a typical 2-story building, jump pad, another 2-story over here that doesn't really have any integration with like a, you know, a generator or anything like that, or a teleporter room. But you're looking at a, you know, covered bridge, teleporter room and spawn room that are infinitely far away, so I'm not sure if I'm missing anything there or if it's literally intended to be kind of that small bridge battle with this potentially hazardous stuff down here. It looks like it's just normal water. As for your other Zealous satellites, you've got West Airdock over here, appropriately named with the jump pad, and yet another one. You've got the teleporter room and I'm assuming that's the one that goes into the actual base. There's your A point, external terminal, air pad, and then the spawns and the teleporter room are way back here. I guess you could take an alternative approach with that for what it's worth. Really, really cool stuff. Like I said, not things you've seen before in PlanetSide, so pretty excited about that. Got quite a bit of drop-offs here surrounding Zealous now with these bridges. Here we are at the north gate. We've got our spawn, our teleporter room, our V-pad, our typical vehicle shield, and so on and so forth. Footbridge connecting. That would be the teleporter room to the actual base, I think, and then that's the teleporter room from the spawn room. A point in a 2-story across the way. And I'm trying to plan out the best way to go north here. I I know Clegg's going to be like, you missed X base. And it's going to be like the only one that I missed because I didn't realize that I missed it. Subterranean nanite analysis. Are we ready for this? I don't know. We are here. This is one of the bases that Clegg, I believe at least started building on FNO, and on the outside looks pretty straightforward. No, I wouldn't say standard, but straightforward. Got various approaches if you're attacking. You've got trees and other such cover around here, shield gen up top, and then what really happens is beneath the surface. And this brought me back to like an Unreal Tournament type of base when I first saw it. I really was kind of blown away. Functionally, we had some feedback about how it played, especially with the different vertical levels, as you'll see, which Clegg was awesome enough to take into consideration, and he made some changes based on that. But I think we were all really just kind of blown away by how awesome the base was visually and as far as something we hadn't seen before. So I'm really excited to kind of play with the new version of it. Here's yet another, I guess that's a tank gen. All sorts of balconies and cover and jump pads and grav pads and everything inside of here that really don't look like what you come to expect from a PlanetSide base, but still really awesome nonetheless. Down in here you've got another level with the actual A point enclosed in here, which is only accessible from this side, I guess. These are in fact like things that you can see through but you can't shoot through or move through. So you got a whole nother level of cover down in here, a few entrances and exits to the room now, thankfully. And just so you kind of know where I'm at, this actually goes back up to the surface at the other point. Then you drop down another level below the A point, and you've got a teleporter room for the spawns, as well as various jump pads to get up. And you go down yet another level to the actual spawn room. So this is actually like a really cool 4-tiered base, and that's just the underground portion of it. That was very, very refreshing and new to fight at, if not choke pointy. But I think a lot of those situations or whatever have been at least somewhat addressed, and hopefully it plays in such a way that functions really, really nice and fun and stuff. But I just visually and just kind of, I don't know, it brings me back a bit to UT and stuff. I just think it's an awesome base from that sort of standpoint, and hopefully it actually plays through just as fun as it looks. We're over at our friend Split Peak. Probably, like I was saying before, one of the most unique bases, similar to LithCorp up northwest. Got the 4-point treatment, but a lot of it has stayed the same. You're seeing yet another covered bridge. This bridge wasn't covered over here on the right-hand side, but now it is, leading to C point up there, and they completely added a covered bridge over on the left-hand side as well. You've got your B point and your A point way back up in here in the banana room, as opposed to down in here. There was a building over here with a point that is no longer there. We just got trees. And you've got your D point underground. I don't even know how to get to it. There we go. Which is accessible over there. So that's actually, like, again, the D point is the one that would be probably first capped by a ground approach, but you do have your vehicle shields on either side, as you always have. But really unique stuff from base to base, especially with these outposts and satellites and so on and so forth. So I typically wasn't a huge fan of this base from an actual functional gameplay standpoint, but eager to check out the new version and see how we like it. Looks like it's definitely been improved quite a bit. Raxicom we didn't hit before, I don't believe. That was just on the east end of the barrier. Looks very similar from out here. I don't know if there's a whole lot I can necessarily say about it. Still a 1-point cap, point over there. A bit more surrounding buildings and cover, especially all this tree cover up here. Teleporter room, actually in a really interesting spot, which could be very helpful for defensive flanks and things like that. We'll go Makala Auxiliary. Oh, right, okay, I remember this. So here we are, lots of small buildings on the bottom, a 2-story over here. This is just, you know, a satellite, so it's a 1-point cap. We've got these vehicle towers with this bridge overlooking it, kind of, you know, fully equipped with turrets and all sorts of things like that. The A point is actually way back in there, so if you're attacking from the Makala side into the northwest, you've got a lot to go through. Despite being able to actually drive your vehicle up in here, you've still got a lot to potentially go through. And then here is teleporter room and spawn room. You know, more cover, I guess, from that side. And then the A point is in here. This, I guess, is a vehicle shield. Despite kind of being interesting, the other ones that we've seen like this haven't had a vehicle shield, at least it wasn't on. If they did, the V pad in there, the A point in there. So I mean, I guess you could potentially just, you know, drive straight up to it. I don't know if it's toggleable off. I guess so by that V-gen that's way down there. Maybe, maybe not. I'm just making things up. But this for this larger indoor area is actually really broken out quite nicely. Lots of individual cover rather than the large open space approach, which can make for just as compelling gameplay, just in a different way. You've also got this kind of like tunnel access point from directly from the spawn room, so that's actually really cool for defenders to hop in there. You know, if they were getting camped outside of their spawns or whatever. Guess we'll just kind of keep going east to get up. This is East Hills, another kind of, you know, small outpost baked into a mountainside. Spawn room, teleporter room, lots of tree cover and rock cover and changing altitudes and terrain and things like that. Similar to the old point, or rather to the old base cap point over here, spawn point over there, just I guess some modifications to the flow of the base as improvements, but not anything groundbreaking as far as I can tell. No pun intended, although probably should have been. Silver Valley. A point in the 2-story L-shaped building. It's covered turret area out here for further defense from the road. Spawn room and V-pad. Kind of some interesting gameplay that can be happening down in here, as far as that goes. We've got the Onatha satellites. Here we are at, oh, forgive me, we're not quite at Onatha satellites yet. We're at East Shore. These are the 3 Onatha ones. East Shore very heavily covered by the trees, as you've seen on other bases.
No.
If over here you've got these 2 rather interesting entrances that are kind of purposefully made so that you can't get larger vehicles into them and stuff like that. Over here you've got water that looks like water that might be water. It looks actually really icy. It's interesting. Some nanite overflow got in there. You've got the A point over here in this 2-story. There's another one of those wonderful equipment terminals that's not in a thing. I'm actually like kind of... The tree cover is that good at this base that I'm losing track of my own kind of like progression through the base as if I was, say, attacking through a wall, but that's not a bad thing at all. I mean, on all of these cases, you can't really say, you know, a whole lot about them from just flying by them. You really gotta get in them and try them out in a live battle or even in a competitive setting, and I can't wait to do that. Here's the actual spawn room and teleporter room and V-pad way back out here, which is actually quite interesting. So you've got like the defenders starting on that complete side, the attackers presumably on this side, and then here's what you've got all in between. So that's pretty cool stuff. These, I was gonna say, are these target dummies? That's actually really awesome. You can set up at this pace if the VR training is too claustrophobic for you. Practice your headshot. You know, I can't pretend that I have good sensitivity with this observer cam. but just practice going from target to target to work on your twitch aiming. Look at that. Bonus points for East Shore Training Camp. Now we know why it's the training camp. And not the satellites. Spawn room, point room, equipment term, teleport. Not gonna really, you know, wander each and every hallway through all of these bases at this point. That's not a real cat. That's a fake cat, but it is memorialized on this video now. There's the cap point. I actually broke this out into having some cover, additional cover that's not usually here, with like 2 doorway entrances. So that's pretty cool. That's what I was saying about essentially modifying existing assets and buildings and stuff like that. I've seen a lot of that, and that's really cool rather than just a copy paste. It meshes familiarity with the content with something kind of new and exciting as well. I don't know what that's zapping, but I don't want to be in its way. So that is our east on Athacamaray. We'll go to the north and we'll circle back. Place Sunderer here. Got our A point. Our teleporter room, our actual teleport to the biolab itself, and our spawn room way back in here. Actually makes for, you know, that's what I'm saying, like you don't really get this effect when you're flying around the observer cam, but if you're like pretending you're actually on the ground, the verticality and the sloping of these bases is actually pretty intriguing, interesting, awesome, whatever you want to call it, and should be cool to see how it plays out. A lot of these bases are kind of like one end to the other, really set up with attackers and defenders in mind, and hopefully we'll clash in the middle quite nicely. Hop down the southwest gate real quick. Here we are, jump pad, on over to the biolab. Capture point way out here in a 2-story, relative to the vehicle gen and the spawn room, which are literally on the furthest possible opposite side. So again, kind of just like what I was talking about at the last base. But should be interesting. I'm not a huge fan of putting the spawn and the teleporter room right next to each other. They still serve a purpose, obviously, rather than everybody coming out of the same area, but I like when I see it in like some very different spot throughout the base to you know, add that extra dynamic for both attackers and defenders. Looks like there's a mini underground area here under the road with the actual teleport to the base in it, so that's pretty cool. Up to the shield gen room. Oh, we did Macalla Auxiliary. Oh, Macalla Cart Mining. The famous. Alright, we'll do Crux because it's, you know, the last base for whatever, and we'll do one of these loops. Crux does seem to get fought at a bit, despite being right next to a warp gate. I guess it's also rather far south by comparison. So here's an entirely brand new Crux. Very Nexus feely, if you will. Like some of the corner bases on Nexus. You've got this underground ground vehicle entrance area. You've got a V-pad. You've got the B point in one of these new large open area buildings. You've got A point kind of coming up in the next new large open area building. You'll notice that it's still an entirely different design. The other one had the large like orange shipping containers. This one has this elevated point with different types of cover. Really, really cool stuff. Lots of thought and, like, you know, craftsmanship, I think, going into a lot of these bases. So that's pretty exciting. And then you've got your C point, very exposed next to this cylinder of sorts, kind of almost in this arena to block it off a little bit more. You don't see too many areas where you're going to get a ground vehicle to shell down in, thankfully. Hopefully some of Scourge's comments were taken seriously. There's the air pad for you as well, kind of really far out there, accessible both by the attackers and the defenders in that case. Despite the spawn room being close, this is not at all really protected, if you will. But not that that's a bad thing. Whereas the ground term is way out here. I'm assuming we'll pull at that pad, but that's just an assumption. Some lighting structures over there. Head on over to our friends at Shadespire Farm. Or Tiras Fall. Oh, look at that, man. They're actually farming the crops. They look like they need to be harvested. That's a cool addition. I like it. Teleporter room, spawn room, opposite sides, really like that. There's the V-pad off the spawn room. Equipment term outside of the point building. There's the A in the typical two-story. Good stuff. I personally like it a lot better than the current Shadespire iteration, and if you don't know, it actually got quite a bit of a facelift. I mean, you can still kind of tell here's the spawn room, here's where you come down. This hill was lower. This was kind of just an open field. The cap point was over there. I like it. Cool. Aramax Reserve. Another warp gate adjacent base. We've got kind of interesting, like you're going to the zoo or something. Stairwell. Just you know, there's like, I don't know, there's not a ticket booth or something somewhere. There is a place AMS here. That's what this should say right here. Place AMS here. Garage. And then you ticket booth up. Take your stroll up to the zoo. I'm going delirious. A point is down in there. That's actually pretty interesting. There's your spawn room, and D-pad way over here with its own like little driveway, if you will. And your actual point. I don't know how many points of entry there are here, but you've got the lower level there, mid level, and upper level where the actual point is. Really tight in here, which is pretty cool. Probably very defensible as well, but you do have an alternative entrance here that can both be accessed from defenders going down the jump pad or attackers coming, around the mountain. I guess we're going to do Black Shard Tungsten and Makala, Cart Mining, and Crux, and then go up to NC Arsenal. Sure, let's do it. Approaching Black Shard Tungsten, they too have some nanite harvesting panels. There's your spawn and your teleport, which will take you to there. Got some basic buildings up top. The point is actually up top as well, but you do have the garage area down in here, whether it be for Sunder or just vehicles passing through, or actually accessing the base from down below. I guess this goes outside as well as up to here. And I assume the other entrance as well would do the same. So that's actually pretty interesting. This one brings you up top by the A point and the equipment terminal, so that's pretty well thought out. Cart Mining, a base that we flying through mountains now. We're trying to name for a while with the elevated banana building, 1.5 Sunder is high or whatever it was. It's a really interesting approach here. I don't even know what this reminds me of. It's kind of like part freeway, under a bridge with the turrets and the kind of the outpost setup. We've got the banana room overlooking much higher off the ground than you usually see the banana room, which is kind of, I guess, one of the parts of this base that's unique about it. Covered bridge down into a typical two-story, mirrored with another one on the side. Smaller building, this footman's bridge of sorts. Vehicle pad, teleporter room, and then the spawn room itself is going to be up here. Yeah, tucked back in there. Got an ammo tower, and then your point is actually, like, with all of that stuff going on, your point is like tucked way down in here. Just got some natural cover going on, which is pretty cool and interesting. and then here's a path that I'm assuming goes 2 ways. Hey, cart mining! Look at that mineshaft. I remember him putting that in. So that's one way to access it from here. And then the other would be, oops, just kidding, made the wrong turn. The other would let you out way on this other side. So pretty cool stuff. Again, pretty close to the point on either side. I like how it ultimately came out, Clegg. Good job, sir. Crux it is. Bit of a different approach to Crux headquarters here. You'll see some similarities with the bridges and points of cover. You're not going to find yourself a proper, multiple story tower like you typically have. But that's, again, not necessarily a bad thing. I was pretty happy with Crux the way it was, all things told, but this is a much different base now with an A point way out here. A, B, and C are actually rather spread out. B in a typical 2-story, I think much like it was, and likewise for C, you just don't have the ginormous tower in the middle. You instead have the ammo silo, and you've taken all of this area that used to just be a vehicle approach and kind of expanded it out through a point way out here, and provided actual means for fighting out here instead of just harassers and lightnings and other such vehicles sitting around. Let's see, arsenal. Here we are. Really interesting approach on this base too. You kind of got like the gladiator arena down here. I like this. It's just like, you should like open up one of these doors and unleash some sort of terrifying demon of sorts, but not sure of the purpose exactly yet, but I think it's really cool. Why not? We've got the spawn room perched up here. It's a 3-point cap with C and B. I'm going to call it a mirror, but it's not really a mirror on either side. A expanded out large interior building. C looks even different yet. Same kind of exterior, different interior, good stuff there. And then A has yet another similar thing going on. There's that damn cat again. It's not BB. Or Bailey. Here's the A point, a little bit elevated in this building. You can go even further to the rooftop. And down in here, I guess, would just be the V-Bay, if you pulled something out of that terminal, where you would kind of exit it. I suppose you could also enter through as an attacker, and then have, like, you're kind of really stuck in that pit, but you do have the jump, or the grav pads out of it, so it'd be an interesting approach. We had checked out LithCorp Fortress, so we're going to go to the Moss. Moss Ravine. Looks exactly like what I'd imagine a Moss Ravine to look like. Got a double terminal set up in there, interesting, in a 2-story. Got your ravine, you've got your moss, you've got your A point in a 2-story there. It really is. It kind of, flows like this, I don't know, just very built into the terrain around it, which is pretty cool. Teleporter room, spawn room, and a V-term. Pretty cool stuff. Interesting to see, like these bases that are generally open, but hard for vehicles to navigate and things like that, how they play out, especially these 1-point bases that are kind of really expanded upon. So we did ourselves some of everything except we've got the Sungray satellites, Hidden Ridge, and Jagged Lance Mine. We're gonna make it. We are going to make it. Let's check out our Sungray hubs. So this one should look very familiar. By the way, Sungray did get the Freyr treatment, 3-point cap, and so on and so forth. So you have that to look forward to, or hate if you don't like it. But I personally like it, so I think it's cool. This is a very kind of infamous satellite as far as they go. Should be pretty familiar to most people. Did get a bit of changes a different approach now from the south side, and this is no longer either immediately the spawn room. Instead, we've got some really kind of wide open spaces in here. The V-term is now over here and functions by bringing the vehicle. I mean, I guess that's more or less kind of similar in functionality, but very different in how it looks. You get this covered approach as well to shoot on down to people, but I like that rather than just, you know, the typical half wall. There is your actual spawn and teleporter, which is cool news. Still have the garage passageway down through. Park your under here. I'm actually curious to know where... Oh, look at that, man. There it is. I was going to say, I know there's another level to this. Just not sure exactly. And this kind of reminds you a bit of the Kwahtee underground. So that's where your teleporter would be.
Yep.
And it has some remnants of the Kwahtee mountainside base, which has a lot more going on beneath the surface than you would otherwise be led to believe. So, liking it. Sungray Power Hub. Look at that. Power Hub, charging station. They have some things in common. Notably, these items that look like they're actually powering something. We've got our spawn and our teleport room. It's kind of like open terrace area with nice trees and the shrubbery. Good stuff. I'm not really even sure what else to say. I again like the multi-level, multi-tiered. You know, you've got your ground vehicle access points and pass-through areas, and your, you know, next tier of fighting, which, you know, is down here, and then up to this level. More very epic stairwell there, if you will. I don't really like using the word epic, but I think that stairwell was appropriate to use it there. It felt it. Get some rocky staircase there. Not really, but getting there. There's your A point. This is what the base looks like from afar. And we're going to hit up the other Sungray hub and then the last two smaller outposts. This is probably like, what, an hour and a half at least? Holy moly. Not sure, still not sure at this point if I'm doing a two-part video with the patch notes or just including them in early on. But we'll figure it out, so if I said one thing and then decided another, I apologize, but it'll be up there one way or another for anybody who really wants a thorough look at stuff. So here we are, Sungray, Overwatch, spawn room, capture point, VPAD. Covered bridges and walls for, you know, the ground vehicle folk. Here again is that, you know, kind of passage underneath. You've got the A point in here, typical place for it, two-story building. Nothing quite as crazy as far as I can tell as some of the other satellite bases, but still a perfectly fine base nonetheless. Just because some of them get pretty crazy with unorthodox approaches doesn't mean that they all should. On our way to Hidden Ridge. It's a bit hidden, I suppose, behind all of these mountains and stuff like that, if you didn't have a waypoint on it or didn't see that big flag. I've got like a dirt mound up here with this would-be turret location. Interesting stuff. Seems as though it has taken a topple. Anyway, again with the multi-tiered approach, we've got little, you know, cavernous walkways down into the actual point. This really reminds me of a cave out of Guild Wars 2 for some reason, actually. Just got that like kind of a flashback. I didn't even play that game that much. Here's your VPAD. Actual, you know, standard VPAD off to the side. The terminal's right next to it. You've got your A point down in the cavern, like I showed you, but you do have these areas above it, as well as another entrance via grav pad. Your teleporter room. It's actually quite interesting. First time I've seen a teleporter room function in this fashion, where you kind of just block off this part of this upper railing, but that's cool. Quick way if you're getting camped or whatever, to just hop on into that building. I like that a lot, actually. Any sort of alternatives that will give you, you know, cover to cover teleportation or transportation. It's cool by me. More various ways to get on down into the actual capture point. And Jagged Lance. We shall finish our ginormous video with you. Here's our spawn room. Here's our this looks, I'd say, similar to what you may know already from Jagged Lance. It actually has a little bit of like a Nexus influence, one of those corner bases that I'm thinking of. But with the addition of some interesting cover, I actually like this like hexagonal cover around A. As simplistic as it is, it's pretty cool. There's your V-pad, your slightly covered, not covered, but you know, bridge with some cover. There's your teleporter room. There's your actual spawn room proper. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah, definitely feels like Jagged Lance with some much needed updates, I'm sure. Hopefully, like I said, we'll actually get some action on some of these side bases that are, you know, adjacent to warp gates and so on and so forth, that don't get quite as much action typically with the new changes. So that's it. It's been an extremely long time. I apologize for that, or you're welcome. I don't know, depending on if you like or hate long videos. I know I'm kind of speaking in advance here, but I don't know exactly what I'm going to do for it yet for on YouTube. I might try to timestamp it a bit in the description to have you be able to skim through it for different bases. I think that's probably a good idea. I don't know if I'll include the patch notes at the beginning or make it two separate videos at this point. We'll see, I guess, just logistically what seems like it works best. So if I said one thing now or at the beginning of this video that, oh, blah, 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 I may have changed my mind by the time I uploaded it. So forgive me for that if there's any inconsistencies there. But I really need to stop talking now. So I'm going to get in there and play some and enjoy me some new Amerish, and I hope you guys are doing the same. Please feel free to share your comments, things you like, things you hate, and whatever else you might think of about all this stuff. And I really hope it was somewhat useful. I said at the start that it would be really long if I went through each, and believe me, I kind of only skimmed the surface on some, and it was still an extremely long video. So I hope you guys appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you for the support. And if you do, I appreciate anything, subs and follows and likes and thumbs ups, and you know what to do. I hate asking for it, but I do really appreciate it. And be sure to stop by the stream over at itsmurda.com, where I stream PlanetSide 2 pretty much every day. So hopefully I will see you guys there. Enjoy Amerish. Let me know what you think, and have a good one.